Hello and welcome. Today we're going to have a look at how we can work with Visual Studio Team Services RESTful API from a product called LINQPad. And my name is Henrik Yllemo and I'm a senior consultant with Solidify in Sweden. So the reason why we want to use this API is that we want to integrate any type of application to the Visual Studio Team Services or TFS. And we do this by using this RESTful API, and we can access basically anything from within TFS, like accounts, builds, tests, and whatever, projects and teams, and all the work or the version control of the code or work item tracking and stuff like that. And we have a link here below, visualstudio.com, docs, and RESTful basics. And from there we can see there's a pattern for this entire API, and it's good to have this understanding of this pattern verb here. Like we can see here, it's HTTPS, secure HTTP, and we have an instance. And in my case, in below here, it's Yllemo.visualstudio.com. That's my instance. And the collection is the default collection I'm using, and I don't have any team projects tied to this little link here below. Then comes this underscore APIs, and from there we have the various types of areas or questions that we want to ask ourselves. And a good practice is to always include the API versions, because in some cases it might get stuck otherwise. So here we are at Get Started with the REST APIs. We can see here the definition of the API, the common pattern as they call it, and the reason why we should avoid hanging our apps when connecting. We should use the API version number of the API. And scrolling down here a little bit, we can see that it's working on TFS, but then we need to add a couple of other things like service import and stuff like that. Typically it's 8080 for TFS. And the response is formatted as a JSON format. We can go here to json.org in case we want to have a better understanding of JSON. But typically it looks something like this in the response. So we have a couple of HTTP verbs: get, post, put, patch, delete, and stuff like that we can add to this command. So for example, we have post and get, and we get the various JSON definition. This is the rough outline of how this works. And we're gonna go back to the authentication later on, because I have a LINQPad. We're gonna use this authentication method. So from here, we can scroll all the way up, and we see in this little bluish area here, we have the RESTful APIs, and we have the various areas where we can ask our questions and we can refer to the API. We have the accounts profile, build 2.0, cloud tests, code policy, dashboards and widgets, gits and backing, all the way down to work item tracking. So clicking on the samples here, for example, I should be able to get some really simple samples how to use this using standard C# code, but we're not going to use normal C#. We're going to use a tool called LINQPad, but it looks pretty similar to this, and it's a bit even simpler than this to execute. That's one of the benefits of using LINQPad. But there's another thing here I wanted to get your attention to. This is the GitHub Microsoft VSTS REST API sample code. So opening up that, we should be able to see that Microsoft has released some samples which we can navigate through on GitHub here, and we can get an understanding, for example, projects and teams. We can access it and how we can use it using standard C# code. So that was a little bit of that, and going into the various things here, for example, build overview, for example, we should get a little introduction, and from there we can go to build, and we should be able to see how to make this actual call. And we see that we have the instance, the project, and then we have long questions here. And typically it's good to have a look at this. We We see here get fabric and fiber. We can change that to our specific domain, which is yllemo.visualstudio.com instead, default collection. And we can ask this question. For example, I've done the same thing here. We have Yllemo3, visualstudio.com, default collection, APIs, and ask for which type of projects we have and the API version 2. This is how the typical API is getting accessed, and I get back a JSON string. So here it's just one line because I don't have any format to it, so it's pretty hard to read, but I can understand that I have a count of 3 different projects within Visual Studio. So now when we have the basic understanding of how we can access the APIs, we should now have a little look at LINQPad, the little tool that lets us instantly test any type of C# snippet or program within itself without any extra installations or anything like that. It's in the name, it's called LINQPad. It's mostly used to access various types of databases and query the databases in the same type of way as you do with the SQL. But you do that in the reverse order, but like you can see on the image here from P in products, it's the opposite of select. It's ending with select. So it's a bit of a smarter construct than SQL, and it's more easy to do various iterations and loops around it. And it's commonly used within C# as one of the quick and easy things to just get working with various types of lists of data. And one of the things with LINQPad that makes it great is the output format, the little result window below there. You can get really rich formatting, and you can switch in between various things like IL languages and SQL. And that's really, really helpful when debugging and testing out various types of things. And also in many cases, you just want to automate simple types of scripts. And using .NET languages in a standard C#, it's really good. Another thing that it's free, it's entirely free, and you can add to it as a subscription if you want to, and you get some extra benefits like IntelliSense and stuff like that. But it's really lightweight, so it only is like 15 megabytes of one executable, so you can download it on all your virtual machines and have it accessible. And you can have the samples and your queries stored centrally, and you can access it. And so it's really good, like a team tool. So now we're going to have a little bit of a look and overview of LINQPad. So here we are at LINQPad.net, the programmer's playground. It's a really good, catchy thing because this is really helpful for doing the various types of playgrounds. Playing around with this tool. There is 2 versions out, LINQPad 4 and 5. The latest one, 5, is using 4.6, and the version I'm going to demo today is LINQPad 4. So now I've opened up my instance of LINQPad. We can see here on the left hand side we had this add connection. We can add various types of database drivers and stuff, but we're not going to use that since we're accessing a RESTful API. So I'm not going to refer to that. And also another thing we can look at, we have a little program here, void main, but we can also have like expressions and statements. That's really helpful if you have a database connection. You don't want to have an entire program running, you just want to execute that specific question, just like a SQL statement. When you install this little thing, you just press it and you have this little tab here called samples. You have a LINQPad 5-minute introduction. This is really good to just click through to get an understanding of what LINQPad does. Like for example, this hello LINQPad, we just execute that. We see that it's in C# expression. It just returns hello world. Really handy. A simple query, it looks like something like this. We still have a C# expression from word in this string. We're going to split it into the word length and order it by the length and select the word. And we get the little list like this, the fox, the dog, over, and that's been split by the length. So it's starting with the shortest and ending up with the longest word. And we have like multiple statements. We can do the same thing here, but it's going to find the duplicates here, and we can see some of the benefits of using LINQ. So just executing that, we can see that we have 2 instances of the in this little string. We have the and the because it's upper, so it's the same. So this is really handy. I recommend that you click through it. And today we're going to use a little bit of this custom method and types. We're going to have a program in our scenario. So it's going to be a program calling a function like this. And we're not going to use a specific class, but we're going to call a function. So it's good to have the understanding of the main, that it's going to refer to a separate function. So from there, I just wanted to point you to my queries here. I have this little demo of FizzBuzz that I wanted to show you guys. FizzBuzz is the little test that sometimes been done. I don't think they do it much nowadays, but it was something they did back in the day when they wanted to know the skills of the programmer, and they asked the programmer, can you write me a program that prints out the numbers from 1 to 100, but every time one of the number it multiplies by 3, you should replace the 3 with a fizz in text. And in case it's multiplies by 5, it should say buzz. And it multiplies by both 3 and 5, it should print FizzBuzz. There's many ways of doing that, and depending on your skill and the programming language of choice, you end up having a different type of structure. Here we can see it's really nice in using LINQ as the language for this. I have it in one line. I can execute it here. I have it in one line, but still it's been broken up here a little bit like that. So if I just execute that, we see that I want to fizz, 4 buzz, fizz, 7, 8 fizz, buzz. And this is something that really shows the power of using LINQ as a extension. So focusing on today, we're going to have a look at how we can use this Visual Studio Team Services demo. So just before we step into the demo, I wanted to explain something about the security and authentication, because we have two different types of authentications. We have one from VSTS and one from LINQPad. In VSTS, we have actually 4 different types of security methods. We have the personal access tokens, we have the alternate authentication credentials, and we have the OAuth authentications, and we have the SSH public keys. For this demo today, we're only going to use the second one, the alternate authentication credentials, because that's the only one supported by LINQPad, at least as far as I know. And in LINQPad, we're going to use the password manager, so we don't use the password in clear text. So now I've opened up my Team Services account. If you find it a bit strange that the things are actually located differently, it's because I'm using an early preview of the navigation experience. I like it a lot, this new experience here. It's really neat, the format of that. But for today's exercise and for the authentication, we need to add something to this little profile, and it's the same as the old one. So if I press on my little image here, on my name, I can press on this security tab here. It should direct me to this page when I have security tokens, and I have this personal access token. This is not something that we're going to use, so we're going to use the alternate authentication credential. So what we want to do here is we want to click this little checkbox here to enable alternate authentication credentials, and type in a secondary username, a string, just a standard name, like in my case here is Yllemo 3, and a password. And if you look up here, it says personal access tokens are more convenient and secure replacement, blah blah. It's not supported as far as I know, this personal access token in LINQPad. Maybe if you know something that I don't, maybe you can update in the comments on YouTube or something like that, and just so I can get an understanding if it works or if it's just me. So when you've done this and you press save there, you should have this this authentication credential already in place. And going back to LINQPad, then we should before we get starting with the demo, we should go to the file and to the password manager here. We should add this one, add something, and when you do an add here, you just type in a name. In my case, I just type in Yllemo TFS and password, and now I can change the password, so it should be the same password as you had on the VSTS. So from there, we should be able to get started. We can see here in this little line here, I'm just referring to util, LINQPad util get password, and I refer to that, and the username here is Yllemo3. So this is the same authentication token. So now we're gonna have a little bit look of how I'm doing this. I'm just gonna execute it just for once, just so you can have an understanding of how this script actually works, and then we're gonna break it into smaller pieces so you have an understanding of that. So I just press play, and I receive a JSON count of 3, and now I can see the values of the various types of projects I have. You see projects, and we see one project called my first project. We have TF demo, and we have TFS to VSTS migration test. So going back to this, we should have the same type of structure here. I just go to browse all and see that we have 3 over here. So going back here and to go to the account home, we can press here and we take a new one just for this demo. So we just do TF, let's call it just REST API, just for the fun of it. And we make sure that this is a team foundation because we like it, and we put it to CMMI just for the fun of it. And we type in some comment and we create this project. It should take not so long before it's being created. So from there we can go back to, while that's being created, we can just go back here and we can check this structure, what's actually happening here. I have one function called main, so I'm just going to collapse that and collapse that. So basically we have one main and we have one get VSO. This is an asynchronous function that's taking a string parameter. So when I execute that, we have a string here, and it's using this API string, and it's bypassing that to another string here. For example, if you see here, we have a collection API and project API. It's different structure. We only have the default collection here. Here we have the TF demo. So we're going to change that to the new one we just created. Let me just see if it's created. So the REST API is created, so it looks good. So we can go back here and we just type REST API for this case. And this, some of the questions here, some of the APIs is either using on the collection level, executing on a collection level, or on the project level. So that's why I just to simplify that, if it doesn't work on the collection level, I try on the project level. And then I do a dump JSON. So executing that now, we should see that we have a 4, and that's a good thing. That was what we expected. So now we should have a new one here, also the REST API that we just created. So now we're back here in this REST API here, and we're gonna see if we can mess this up a little bit out of default. We can maybe change some widgets here. Maybe we should add something cool here. This is maybe a markdown step. Sounds good. We just add a markdown there. This is very cool. And I mean, I can change this markdown, and I can do something like that, and maybe just keep it cool. Maybe I want it a little bit bigger or something like that, and just press save. So this is something that we can do easily. Just change the various templates here, and we can also change maybe we should add something to this other one here as well. And just for the fun of it, we can just change this as well, and just something like that. So we make some changes around this little widget thing. We can go into the code here, and we can see that we have a team foundation version control. If in case we wanted to, we can add a new repository and make it create a Git repository and have a mixed repositories, or we can just add a file here and just call it test maybe, and just type in something, cool, and just save it, just so we mess things up a little bit. We can go to the work section here, and to this little backlog, we just add something called the backlog. This is something that we absolutely need to do, and we add a task to this. And this task is called that, and this is what we need to do, and just press save. Now we have something. We can go to the board here, and we can have a little look in the board and say, this is something that's very active. This is something that we need to do, and we have this nice little burn down chart here. It's perfect. And we can go to builds from here, and we just create a new definition of a build. And maybe we should do something like Visual Studio build. It's good. And we're gonna use this REST API. I don't have so much code there, so we just do like this. And we have a new build step here, and maybe if we can just save this and see, and we call this something like that. It's a really good name for a build definition, I guess. So they changed things a little bit since the last time here, so it's a bit different than the other one, because this was only builds was only one. So this is a bit confusing now. Wondering where I'm executing this. This is quite cool. So just for the fun of it, I'm just gonna go back to the account home here, and I'm gonna change back to the original site, and things better. Yeah, you don't get any comments from me right now. So we go to this REST API. I just wanted to go to the build here and see how the old one looks. It looks very much the same. Interesting. Cool. This interesting with this. This is the kind of like the screen I was looking for, this Explorer thing, because I wanted to have this, and just to be able to queue up the build like this. I couldn't find it, at least not easily with this, because I wanted to have a look and see if we can have any build information. So I wanted to mess this one up a little bit. So as you know, I'm doing this live. This is the first time I actually saw the old one. So it's just doing something here. Is not much to build, so it should be able to finish quite fast. We'll see. Nothing matched files, so nothing to build, so it's failed. Okay, at least I get something in the build log now. So go back to the home here, to the root, and we just switch on the early preview again, and we go back. Just wanted to, should be able to do the same thing within the REST APIs here. This is quite fun actually. Should be able to go to build here and just do something. It's failed. Where do I start the build? All definitions queued. Here we have queued. How do I queue it? Not that intuitive, at least not to me. Queue a new build. Yeah, there we are. And there we can start it. So now I managed to mess up a little thing, so we don't have any test plans or anything like that, but it's also good that we can create some test scenarios and test plans in case we wanted to, and we can do load testing and various types of both automated tests and exploratory tests, and have various test plans for this. For example, I can have test plan called something like that. And I can have various new test cases here. I can have various steps of this, and I need to do that, and I need to do that, and make sure that this is okay. So I just called it something, and just press save. So now we have the actual, in this test plan, I have this nice little test step. So that was a quick mess up of Visual Studio. Now we should go back to LINQPad and see if we can see any of these things we just created. So now we're back to LINQPad and our little demo here. Before we get started, you see that I have this little string here called dump JSON. This is an extension method which I found online way back a couple of years ago from someone here posting in blog site how to use this format of having nicely formatted JSON using this, and how you can add this little string here into the LINQPad as an extension method. So we just do that on adding it in my extensions here. You just in my extensions here, you just add this function, this dump JSON, and it's extended the default functionality within this method here. So that's I can format that. In case I didn't use this, we can just do an experiment, and I just remove this and I put back the old one, just the standard dump one here. You see, you get the default one. It's not being formatted in a way, just a long line, and I don't want that. And I can also use like a standard JSON object, just so you get an understanding. We can go here and we can see that I'm using Newton JSON here, and I have the additional namespaces. We have Newtonsoft JSON link, and we have the systemnet HTTP. This is like the using functions that of standard C# program. So here, if I do this, I just do a JSON call. It should have another structure in the same response. It's not that intuitive, so it's really not helping me. So that's why I wanted to use the dump JSON, because it's for a human. I think it's pretty much easier to understand this structure than the other one. So now we basically can have a look at this little get VSO function. We see that we have a HTTP client, and we iterate through that and make sure that we get some JSON results back, and we're gonna parse it through. It's an asynchronous, so we get async here, and we get the response back, and we can return it as a dump JSON directly here, but I'm returning it as a string rather, because it's easier. And in case it's being caught as an error, then we would just return another string. So regardless, we should get a string back of this. So this is basically the call. So it's nothing special around there. And now what we can do here is we can add this to this line here. We can try and add a couple of ones that I've already pre-configured here. So we just change this one to APIs build and builds. We should now get something. We get a bad request here, and it should be, maybe it should be collection. Maybe it should be in project level here rather. So let's do it like this, and we see that we have two builds here. We have a bad builds, my failed builds here, which the ones I queued. So it's in there, so we can get the builds. That's good. At least that seems to be working. And we can maybe have a look at the build log. Maybe we don't have a build log 7. Maybe we have a build log 1. I'm not sure exactly about this. What this second parameter is here. Doesn't seem to be working that great. So that if in case you have any need more understanding of how this works, then you can always go back to this definition website of this. You can go to the builds. I think it was build 2 and maybe builds, and you can get an understanding of what various type of parameters here is used for and how to format it, so you can get a better understanding. In my link samples here, it's just something I just scribbled together just to get an understanding of how we can use this and what we can get out of it. So now I'm in the agile workboards. We have 3 different things. We have requirements, epics, and features. This would be different if we had another type of project. Like for example, we had a couple of other ones here within this here, and we can, for example, test the TF demo. This was a CMMI version of this. So maybe if you have this, just refer to it as TF demo instead, and just press here. We should get features, stories, and epics. That was a bit different. Features, stories, and epics is different from, oh, sorry. Couldn't execute just one line there. Different from requirements, epics, and features. That's depending on your process model that you have in the project. So from there, maybe we can have a next one. Just have a little check here, see what this fun little thing is doing. It's grabbing some work item tracking. So it's giving me something to do, basically. That's fun. I think you're beginning to get the understanding. So maybe we should have a test plan. We should have one test plan here within this REST API. So we see here we have a test plan here, the one I created when I did a mess up of this. So it's in there. Maybe we have a test runs. I don't think we have any test runs, so it should return 0. So this is basically how you can play around with it. And like we saw in the earlier demos here, like the FizzBuzz, we can take this this return string and I can loop it and bend it and forward it and curate it whichever way I want to. So I can get a really detailed understanding, and I can use this tool to really get a good feeling of how and what I want to use. So in case this was useful for you, then I really urge you to subscribe on the channel here. And in case you want to see more demos or shows like this or movies or whatever, just press the subscribe and or leave me some comments. So until next time, have a great one.